A dream, an idea, a movement, a struggle, a mission, a legacy. It has been said that a woman's place is in the home. Her home is the world, her community. Fulfilling her life's purpose not only benefits her, but the generations to follow. The preservation of her experiences and accomplishments provides tangible evidence of her contribution to humanity.
I think it's such an important part of American history, what women have done, and therefore an important part of world history. And the Hall is so important because in telling those stories, they provide examples that women today can live by.
The Hall will be an archive, a collection of not just pictures and not just stories, but enabling other people to not only understand, but to relate to what's going on.
I think that makes a huge difference because when Amelia Earhart, when they started, there wasn't a lot of that going on. So there was really, we knew about Amelia Earhart and her wonderful flight and everything, but you kind of didn't get the whole picture.
So telling those stories, making people aware of them, educating the young, and even just passing the information on to the old. I think that's an incredibly important goal.
I just think that it is very important to capture this history and have it there for the generations of women to come.
It's very exciting that the legacy can go on, and those of us who are still around must see that it does continue, that it would help in the perpetuity of this movement.
When young women hear of the accomplishments of pioneering women, often creative and controversial, they're encouraged to reach out themselves to meet the present unmet needs. But they need inspirational examples of women who have been heroines, now honored in the National Women's Hall of Fame.
I think the Hall can become a reservoir not only of history, oral histories, video histories, but it can become a springboard to many other areas where women can accomplish things and help other women in many, many different fields. It will not only inspire them, I think it directly will give them the ideas and the inspiration.
And because it is such a part of our history, that story needs to be told, and it is told in a unique way through the Hall.
A chance meeting on the street sparked an entire movement, from women's suffrage to anti-slavery to gender equality. Seneca Falls, the birthplace of social reform in America. What made Seneca Falls the epicenter for nonconformist thinking? Quakers, abolitionists, human rights activists all found a place of acceptance and the environment to pursue such ideological quests.
Many people don't know how important Seneca Falls is and was over 150 years ago to the thinking of this country. It wasn't just about the women's rights movements. It was about abolition. It was about equality. It was about a whole range of things that we are really just dealing with even today. And so its time is more important now than ever, but the history and the legacy that's been there really needs to be understood by every generation.
Although it seems unusual today that a little tiny town like Seneca Falls would have all this activity, nonetheless, it was perfectly poised for it. It was the center of several major cities. It was a central point. The affluence had grown to the point where the women in particular had the ability to address issues. And as I say, there was this connection with the other movements that were simultaneously taking place.
Seneca Falls is the ideal home for the National Women's Hall of Fame. It has a history of being the hub of social and religious reformers, of empowering women, including those working for women's rights.
The movement really helped me, and as it got me charged, because I was a flight instructor, and the male flight instructors would get their enough time, flying time, and they go to the airlines. And that's when I said, well, why can't I? And when the equal rights movement started, I went from why can't I to why can't I? And it changed my whole attitude toward things, and that's when I really got started with pursuing it. And it still took me 10 years to get hired by an airline, but I kept at it.
I was a lieutenant colonel before I found a book about women in the military that I could read. And that was because Major General Gene Home had retired and wrote a book about the history of women in the military. Up to that point, there wasn't such a book. Now we're beginning to recognize that we need that literature. We need those things in print.
The legacy is that we have to not let up, but keep on watching and make sure that women are in a position not only to vote, but in education and politics and in a number of other areas.
Does the past shape our future? Young women and men are living in a culture where struggle seems passé. The significance of being the first in what many deem ordinary and mundane today is actually extraordinary. We have the responsibility to preserve these achievements in order to inspire and empower others.
We live in perilous times. We always live in perilous times, but it seems to me right now, many of the gains women have fought and won, we're in danger of losing, of sliding back. So I think young people need to be aware of that.
For example, when I was young, there was a very big effort. You know, we all heard of the movements that were taking place during that period, and all of us were aware of what happened, and a lot of gains were made. The young people, particularly the young women today, they take those gains for granted. And they don't know about the history, and they don't know how hard the fight was, and they don't know what they should be fighting for in a continuing way. And so I think it's extremely important that the message gets passed on.
And that they will know, do the kind of research that's necessary to know what it is that we need to do. Make sure that we are not going off on a tangent where nothing will happen, but I see that they should be very, very vigilant as to what is going on and how it impacts the lives of not only women, but all of humanity.
Young girls need to understand that, like all women, we need to get into the game, not just dress the part, but have some fun, take some risks, knowing that you'll never get to second base if you keep your foot safely on first.
Well, my hopes are that they will realize their dreams, that the arc of their careers will take them even further than women have gone in the past. But my concerns are that there still are so many fields, including ones in science and technology, where women are not adequately represented. And so I hope that they can face lower barriers, leap them earlier, and move on to do the things that women can do in changing the world.
Facing the chapel where it all began, a mill powering ideas, the new National Women's Hall of Fame will be a permanent, expansive facility that will educate everyone. As the African proverb states, educate a man and you educate an individual. Educate a woman and you educate a nation. The mission to inform, intrigue, and delight through thought-provoking, interactive exhibitions and dynamic seasonal programs, to become the center for great women. This is the Hall's ultimate vision.
I think it's so essential that we know our history. And so much of women's history has been lost. It is really up to the National Women's Hall of Fame to preserve that history.
To be able to tell the story even better than it's ever been told before. And to make Seneca Falls a place that more people will want to come to.
And that would be an ideal place, national place, where everyone knows that what it stands for and what it means. And just being there in Seneca Falls and at the expanded facility, the mill, will give a lot of impetus to the movement.
But more than that, inspire all of us to continue to not just achieve what we want to achieve, open the doors for others.
So the memorializing of the stories of great American women requires a kind of rootedness. And it is my hope that the new home for the Hall will provide that rootedness.
Every generation has a pioneer, and many pioneers, but we rest and stand on the shoulders of those people who came before. The next generation doesn't quite always understand that. When they go to a place that showcases these women, they will understand.